She is useful, that is all. As long as she's spending, let her spend. FA is not my friend though. I don't know about you, but she is not my friend. I mean, yeah, but wait, you really don't like her like that? Like her, please. Amina, you think this girl is our friend. I am telling you the truth. The day FA stops being useful, she will vanish. And I am telling you, we will not even notice she is gone.
There is a kind of loneliness that no crowded room can cure. It follows you into classrooms filled with voices. It sits quietly beside you during family dinners. It waits for you in the silence after everyone else has gone home. It convinces you that if only someone would finally choose you, truly choose you, everything inside you would finally become quiet. Some people spend years running from that loneliness. Others spend an entire lifetime paying for love they never needed to buy. This is the story of one young woman who believed that if she gave enough, if she sacrificed enough, if she became useful enough, someone would finally call her family. She was wrong. And the lesson she learned cost her almost everything she had. But before we get there, before the tears, before the birthday cake, before the laughter that shattered something inside her forever, we have to begin somewhere else. We have to begin with a girl who had never truly learned what friendship looked like. F was 23 years old. She grew up in Wari as an only child. Some people hear those words and imagine a childhood full of attention, endless gifts, and parents who never had to divide their love between brothers and sisters. But that was never F's story. An only child does not always grow up surrounded by affection. Sometimes they grow up surrounded by silence. Her home was peaceful, but it was the kind of peace that often felt empty. Her father worked long hours and spent many nights away from home. Her mother loved her deeply, but exhaustion lived permanently behind the woman's eyes. Dinner was usually quiet. Weekends were quiet. Birthdays were quiet. When school ended each afternoon, there were no brothers waiting to wrestle with her. No sisters inviting her into whispered conversations late at night. No noisy family arguments that somehow ended in laughter an hour later. There was only F. And after enough years, silence begins teaching dangerous lessons. It whispers. If people stay beside you, it is because you have earned it. Without realizing it, F slowly built her understanding of love around one belief. People only remain close to those who make themselves valuable. If you become useful enough, they won't leave. She carried that belief into adulthood without ever questioning whether it was true. Years later, that single belief would almost destroy her. After graduating from university, another chapter of her life arrived. Like every Nigerian graduate, F received a posting for the National Youth Service Corps. For 1 year, she would leave everything familiar behind. A different city, different people, different culture, different routines. The purpose was simple. Young graduates from different parts of Nigeria would serve communities far away from home, learning to live together despite different languages, tribes, and backgrounds. But before any real service could begin, there was camp. Anyone who has ever experienced NYSC camp understands immediately why older graduates laugh whenever new corps members say they are excited. Excitement disappears very quickly. Camp is not a vacation. It is discipline. It is exhaustion. It is waking long before sunrise while your body still begs for another hour of sleep. Before dawn even thinks about breaking across the sky, a bugle screams through the camp. Within seconds, thousands of sleepy young men and women begin climbing down from metal bunk beds. Some stumble. Some complain. Some barely remember where they are. Yet everyone must report outside almost immediately. White shorts, white shirts, white sneakers, lines stretching across the parade ground. Military instructors shouting orders that echo across the cold morning air. Run. Turn. Stand straight. Move faster. Again. 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 By the time breakfast finally arrives, most people already feel as though they have lived an entire day. But camp is only beginning. Physical drills, lectures, community activities, skill acquisition programs, sports competitions, long queues, never-ending announcements, evening social events. By the time your head finally touches the pillow, your body feels borrowed. And just when sleep begins to feel merciful, the bugle returns. Every single morning. Again. 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 That is why, inside NYSC camp, sleep becomes something more valuable than money. Money cannot replace energy. Money cannot stop exhaustion. Money cannot convince aching muscles to move again. Every extra minute of sleep feels like treasure. People protect it fiercely. Most corps members learn very quickly to ignore anything that threatens those precious hours. Everyone. Except F. The first morning, she noticed two young women standing together during parade. They laughed easily, finished each other's sentences, shared bottles of water without asking, teased each other the way only old friends can. Their names were Sola and Amina. They had known each other long before arriving at camp. By what seemed like pure luck, both had been posted to the same orientation camp. Neither ever stood alone. Neither ever looked lost. Where one appeared, the other was never far away. From a distance, they looked effortless, like two sisters who carried home with them wherever they went. F watched them quietly, not because she envied their clothes, not because she admired their confidence. She admired something much simpler. They belonged to each other, and deep inside, that was all F had ever wanted. Not popularity, not attention, not admiration, just belonging. That evening, while hundreds of corps members crowded around the camp canteen, F gathered enough courage to introduce herself. The conversation lasted less than 5 minutes. Sola smiled politely. Amina smiled too. Nothing extraordinary happened. No dramatic beginning. No instant friendship. Just 3 young women exchanging names before returning to their different bunks. Most people would have left it there. Allowed friendship to grow naturally. F did not know how to do that. Because loneliness makes people impatient. When your heart has waited years to feel included, even the smallest kindness begins to feel like an invitation. That night, lying awake on her narrow bunk, F made a quiet promise to herself. She would become part of their friendship. Not by forcing herself into their conversations. Not by demanding attention. She would earn her place. Because somewhere inside her, she still believed that love always had to be earned. The next morning arrived with the same deafening bugle, the same rush to the parade ground, and the same sea of sleepy corps members trying to convince their exhausted bodies to keep moving. The instructors shouted until their voices echoed across the field. Straighten your line. Move faster. No talking. The sun had barely climbed above the horizon, yet sweat was already rolling down hundreds of faces. Some people complained under their breath. Some laughed through the exhaustion. Others silently counted the hours until lights out. F noticed something different. Sola looked unusually tired. She kept rubbing her eyes between drills, and during one of the short breaks, she leaned against Amina with a frustrated sigh. I barely slept, Sola muttered. My bunk is right beside that girl who snores like a generator. Amina laughed. I told you to bring earplugs. I forgot. They both laughed again. It was only a casual conversation, one that most people nearby never even noticed. But F did. She remembered every word. That afternoon, after another long series of lectures and drills, everyone rushed toward the hostels. For many corps members, the short afternoon break meant only one thing: sleep. The hostels quickly became quiet as tired bodies disappeared beneath thin camp blankets. F climbed the stairs toward her own room. Just as she reached the hallway, she noticed Sola standing outside her bunk, looking annoyed. My mattress is impossible, Sola sighed. I don't think I'll survive 3 weeks sleeping on this thing. Amina laughed. You'll survive. I won't. Without thinking twice, F smiled gently. You can use mine. Both women looked at her. For today? Sola asked. No. F replied softly. For as long as you need it. Sola blinked. Seriously. It's okay. Where will you sleep? I'll manage. There was genuine surprise on both of their faces. Most people protected their mattresses like treasure inside camp. Sleep was precious. Nobody gave away comfort so easily. Yet F offered hers without hesitation. Thank you, Sola said. I really appreciate it. Those 5 words stayed with F for the rest of the evening. Thank you. Such a simple sentence. Yet it warmed a part of her heart that had been cold for years. For the first time since arriving at camp, she felt useful. And somehow, being useful felt strangely similar to being loved. That night, while everyone else slept comfortably inside the hostel, F spread a thin wrapper across the hard concrete floor beside another girl's bunk. The cement felt cold beneath her back. Every movement sent discomfort through her shoulders. She barely slept. When morning came, her entire body ached. But when she saw Sola smiling after a good night's rest, she smiled too. The discomfort suddenly felt worth it. Days slowly turned into weeks. Camp developed its own rhythm. Morning parade, breakfast, lectures, community development sessions, sports, evening fellowship, market days, talent nights. Every corps member gradually found a small circle of friends. Some friendships remained casual, others became inseparable, without anyone officially deciding it. F slowly became part of Sola and Amina's daily routine. They ate together, walked together, sat together during lectures. People around camp even started assuming they had arrived together. Whenever someone asked, "Where's Sola?" the answer usually came, "She's probably with F." Whenever someone looked for Amina, they checked wherever the other two happened to be. To F, it felt like a dream finally becoming real. For the first time in years, she wasn't alone. One afternoon, heavy rain interrupted the outdoor drills. Everyone ran toward nearby shelters. The camp canteen quickly filled with soaked corps members laughing at their own miserable appearance. Sola searched through her pockets. "Oh no." "What?" Amina asked. "I forgot my wallet." "You always forget something." "I thought I packed it." The vendor stood impatiently behind the counter. No money. No food. Without hesitation, F reached into her own pocket. "I'll pay." Sola looked embarrassed. "No, don't worry. It's nothing. I'll return it tomorrow." F smiled. "Forget about tomorrow. We're friends." The vendor handed over 3 steaming plates of rice. They ate together while rain hammered against the metal roof. Neither Sola nor Amina noticed that F quietly skipped buying herself a drink because she no longer had enough money. She didn't mind. Watching them enjoy the meal somehow made her happier than spending the money on herself. Small moments like that happened again, and again, and again. Sometimes Amina forgot her transport money. F paid. Sometimes Sola wanted snacks after evening drills. F bought them. Sometimes they needed toiletries from the camp market. F quietly added them to her own purchases. Each favor was small, almost invisible, too small to notice individually. But kindness has a way of adding up. So do sacrifices. One payment becomes another. One favor becomes expected. One generous act quietly becomes a habit. Neither side notices when the balance begins to disappear. The interesting thing about being the person who always gives is that people rarely ask whether giving is becoming difficult. They simply become accustomed to receiving. Not because they are always cruel. Sometimes. Because kindness quietly resets people's expectations. Yesterday's favor becomes today's normal. Tomorrow, it becomes something they assume will always happen. That invisible change had already begun. None of the 3 young women could see it yet. Especially not F. Because every time Sola smiled, every time Amina hugged her, every time someone introduced them as best friends, it convinced her she was finally building the family she had always dreamed about. And for that feeling, she was willing to pay almost any price. The camp's first weekend arrived with an energy completely different from the busy weekdays. The military drills were lighter. The instructors shouted less. Music floated through different corners of the camp. Some corps members washed clothes. Others played football. Many gathered under the large trees, sharing stories about their universities, hometowns, and dreams for the future. For a few hours, camp almost felt normal. F sat beneath one of the trees with Sola and Amina, laughing harder than she had laughed in years. The conversation jumped from embarrassing childhood memories to terrible lecturers they had survived in university. Even the smallest jokes felt unforgettable. Several people walking past smiled at the three young women. "You girls are always together. You look like sisters." Every time someone said those words, something inside F quietly glowed. She had spent years wondering what it felt like to belong somewhere. Now, she believed she finally knew. Later that afternoon, Amina suddenly frowned as she searched through her bag. "Oh no." Sola looked over. "What happened now?" "My phone battery is dead." "So, my power bank isn't working either." She sighed heavily. "I promised my mum I'd call today." Without saying a word, F reached into her backpack. "I brought an extra power bank." Amina's face immediately brightened. "You did. You can use it." "Really?" "Of course." "Oh my goodness, F. You literally save us every single day." The three of them laughed. To Amina, it was simply another kind gesture. To F, those few words meant much more than anyone realized. You save us. For someone who had spent most of her life feeling invisible, those words felt priceless. That evening, the camp organized one of its popular social nights. Music echoed across the open field. Different states performed traditional dances. Drummers filled the air with powerful rhythms while corps members cheered from every direction. People danced without caring who was watching. Some made new friends. Some found romance. Others simply enjoyed forgetting the exhaustion of camp for one evening. Sola pulled F by the hand. "Come on. I can't dance. Nobody here can dance." "Exactly." They both burst into laughter. Within seconds, all three young women were dancing together beneath colorful lights. For a brief moment, life felt unbelievably simple. No worries. No loneliness. No fear of being forgotten. Only laughter. Only friendship. Only happiness. If someone had told F that night that the very people dancing beside her would one day become the greatest source of pain in her life, she would have laughed. Some betrayals are impossible to imagine until they happen. As the days passed, their friendship became stronger. Or at least, that was how it appeared. Sola had a naturally confident personality. She enjoyed being the center of attention. People were drawn to her energy almost instantly. She could walk into a room full of strangers and leave with 10 new friends. Amina was different. She was quieter, gentler. She avoided unnecessary arguments and usually acted as the peacemaker whenever disagreements happened around them. F admired both of them. Sola taught her to speak with confidence. Amina taught her to listen patiently. Together, they seemed to complete each other, at least from the outside. One afternoon after lunch, the three friends were walking back toward the hostel when Sola suddenly slowed down. F. Can I ask you something? Of course. I've completely run out of airtime. She laughed awkwardly. My dad keeps saying he'll send money, but you know African parents. The three of them laughed. I need to make one important call. Before Sola could even finish, F had already taken out her phone. I'll transfer some. No. It's okay. I'll pay you back tomorrow. You don't have to. It isn't much. Within less than a minute, the transfer was complete. Sola smiled warmly. You are honestly too kind. F shrugged. That's what friends do. Neither of them realized how important those 5 words would become. That's what friends do. Whenever F gave, she called it friendship. Whenever Sola received, she simply accepted it. Neither noticed that the relationship had quietly become one-sided. The funny thing about habits is that they don't announce themselves. Nobody wakes up one morning and decides, from today, someone else will solve all my problems. It happens slowly, almost invisibly. A favor today, another next week, a little help tomorrow. Eventually, asking becomes easier than doing it yourself. One evening, several corps members decided to visit the small market outside camp. It wasn't far, just enough to buy snacks, toiletries, cold drinks, or recharge cards before returning. The atmosphere was lively. Street vendors called out to passing customers. Small generators hummed outside tiny shops. The smell of roasted corn drifted through the evening air. Sola spotted a pair of beautiful earrings. Oh, these are gorgeous. She picked them up and admired herself in a small mirror hanging beside the stall. How much? The vendor named the price. Sola's smile immediately disappeared. I'll come back another day. She gently placed them back. Before the vendor could respond, F quietly paid. Sola stared at her. F. What? I was only looking. I know. You didn't have to buy them. I wanted to. Sola hugged her tightly. You really are the sweetest person I've ever met. Those words stayed with F all night. The sweetest person. No one had ever described her that way before. She smiled herself to sleep. But kindness, without boundaries, often attracts people who never learn where the boundary should have been. Not because they begin with bad intentions. Sometimes, because nobody ever tells them no. And F never said no. Not once. If Sola needed something, F found a way. If Amina forgot something, F solved it. Others hoped for exciting new cities. F had only one prayer. She didn't care where she was posted, as long as she didn't lose the only 2 friends she believed life had finally given her. She folded her hands that night, closed her eyes, and whispered the same quiet prayer she had repeated for days. Please, let us stay together. She believed it was the beginning of the happiest chapter of her life. She had no idea. It was only the beginning of the lesson that would change her forever. The final week of orientation camp always feels different. The excitement of arriving has disappeared. The routines that once felt impossible have become familiar. Even the loud bugle no longer sounds quite as shocking. People begin talking less about surviving camp, and more about what comes after. Where will we be posted? Which state? Which local government? Will we stay close to the friends we've made? Or will everyone go their separate ways? Those questions floated through every conversation. No matter where people gathered, the dining hall, the parade ground, or the hostel corridors, the topic always returned to postings. Nobody could predict the outcome. Everyone could only hope. One evening, after the day's activities had ended, F, Sola, and Amina sat together on the concrete steps outside their hostel. The air was cooler than usual. A gentle breeze carried distant laughter across the camp. For a while, none of them spoke. They simply watched the sunset disappear behind rows of buildings. Finally, Sola broke the silence. I really don't want this to end. Amina nodded. Me neither. It feels like we've known each other forever. F smiled quietly. So, promise me something. Both women looked at her. No matter where they post us, we stay friends. Sola answered immediately. Of course. We'll visit each other. We'll call every day. We'll even spend holidays together. Amina laughed. And one day we'll be standing in each other's weddings. The 3 of them burst into laughter. It sounded like an innocent conversation. Just 3 young women making promises about the future. But life has a strange habit. Sometimes, The promises made most confidently are the first ones to be broken. The following morning, rumors spread across camp faster than wildfire. The posting list is coming today. No, tomorrow. I heard they're pinning it up after lunch. I heard Abuja delayed everything. Nobody knew the truth. Still, every corps member kept checking the administrative office whenever they passed. By afternoon, hundreds of young graduates had gathered outside the notice board. Some stood on benches. Others pushed through the growing crowd. The atmosphere was filled with excitement and nervous anticipation. Then, an NYSC official walked out carrying several sheets of paper. The crowd immediately surged forward. Within seconds, everyone was searching frantically for their names. F. Where are you posted? I found mine. Oh no. I can't see my name. Voices echoed from every direction. Some people screamed with excitement. Others looked completely disappointed. F's heart pounded as she scanned the list. Line after line. Name after name. Until finally, she found it. Lagos State. She smiled. Lagos. A city full of opportunity. A place where dreams could become reality. But before she could celebrate, another thought rushed into her mind. Sola. Amina. Where were they? She searched again. Then suddenly, she saw them. Both names. Both posted to Lagos. For a moment, she couldn't believe her eyes. Then she heard someone shouting behind her. F. She turned just in time for Sola to throw her arms around her. We're together. Amina joined the embrace seconds later. We actually got Lagos. All three of them laughed so loudly that nearby corps members turned to look. To everyone else, it was simply three friends celebrating. To F, it felt like an answered prayer. She remembered the countless nights she had whispered, "Please, let us stay together." Now, it seemed God had answered. She couldn't have been happier. That evening, camp felt almost festive. People exchanged phone numbers. Some promised to stay in touch. Others cried because they already knew they would probably never meet again. Friendships formed in 3 short weeks often felt surprisingly deep. Shared struggles have a way of bringing strangers together. As darkness settled over the camp, F sat quietly with Sola and Amina one last time. So, Sola said with a grin, "Lagos girls now." Amina laughed. "We need to find an apartment together." "You mean all three of us?" F asked. "Why not? It'll save money. And it'll be fun." F's eyes lit up. "You'd really want that?" Sola looked surprised by the question. "Of course. We're basically sisters already." Those words wrapped around F's heart like a warm blanket. We're basically sisters. She didn't know it yet. But that single sentence would become one of the hardest memories to forget. Camp finally came to an end. Suitcases filled the walkways. Buses waited outside the gates. One by one, young graduates hugged each other goodbye before climbing aboard. Some friendships ended there. Others continued through occasional phone calls. F believed hers would last forever. As their bus rolled out of camp toward Lagos, she looked out the window at the road stretching ahead. She imagined weekend outings, late-night conversations, birthday celebrations, shared apartments, years of laughter. She imagined growing old with the 2 women sitting beside her. She imagined the family she had always wished for finally becoming real. Sometimes, hope paints pictures so beautiful that we stop looking for warning signs. Because when your heart desperately wants something to be true, it becomes very easy to mistake kindness for loyalty, attention for love, and dependence for friendship. The road to Lagos stretched endlessly before them. F smiled at the future. She believed she was driving toward the happiest chapter of her life. She had no way of knowing that the road ahead would lead her to a closed birthday door. A cake she could never bring herself to give. and a lesson she would carry for the rest of her life.